right, man. Welcome back to the show. Michael Storer. We're going to talk about cryptocurrency today. I want to get right into it. What the hell is cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so cryptocurrency is a new technology, I'm going to call it, because that's exactly what it is. It is, an emerging asset that was invented, really, brought to life about, in 2009, really. So 13-ish years ago. So it's not new technology. This is actually, there's been a lot of companies along the way that have tried to implement something along the lines as cryptocurrency. And
What worked in 2009 that changed it?
I think it was the better technology behind it. So what makes so let's back up. So in 2009, a person on the internet named Satoshi Nakamoto, who was supposed to be a Japanese man, had this concept of a digital currency that was regulated by code, computing code, computer code. And he came up with an equation that allowed for a decentralized currency. And it's all governed by the technology of the computer programming, and it lives on the internet, and so it's scattered amongst different nodes or different computers throughout the world. It exists everywhere, right? And it's a blockchain technology, and blockchain is just a fancy word for saying that the code that's written, it's an ongoing ledger, so every single transaction that's happening on the blockchain. So if you think about a spreadsheet, right? A spreadsheet is all it is a way of tracking transactions, right? Debit, credits, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the blockchain does the same thing through its technology. So it's a technology that allows us to send money via the internet.
So backing up, in my experience, in my very limited experience with what cryptocurrency is, which is about, what you just said, and then it ends. Nakamoto is not even a confirmed person, right? It could be we don't know if it's one person, if it's a group of people. I mean, does that matter? Like, how do we trust? Why do we trust that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, so, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're exactly right. We have no idea who it is. We don't know if it's one person or if it's multiple people. It's believed that it's multiple people. I do know that there are a lot of people that were working with, let's call it this person, right? And all this person was a person on basically an online forum, communicating with other people who are very high level computer programmers, people very concerned about the financial institution and the downfalls or errors that exist in the financial institution. And they got together to build this technology in this language, this computer engineering language, blockchain, right? That has formulas. So there's actually it's about, I think, 52 pages. It's called a white paper, and it's basically a thesis paper on how Bitcoin works.
So do you think that was what caused the buy-in for the initial wave in 2000? Well, I might be getting ahead of myself. So the white paper was what gave credence to this idea?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
That
makes.
And then they built it. They built the infrastructure to have Bitcoin exist. And then they started using it and mining it and acquiring it.
What do you mean using it? Using it for what, pizzas? Using it for buying headphones and stuff? iPhones?
Yeah,
what?
I mean, the very first transaction was buying 2 pizzas, which was done in 2013, I believe.
Okay.
think it was 2013. Yeah, someone paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 Domino pizzas, and someone sent it to them from across the world. Gave them, the person I think was in the United States sent it somewhere in Europe and sent the 10,000 Bitcoin, and he called up the local Domino's closest to that person and had it delivered, basically. But really, it started with mining Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is mined just like you mine gold. Just it's done digitally. And as you mine it, what the miners are doing is they're solving a complicated mathematical formula that once you solve that equation, it rewards you with Bitcoin. And while you are mining and solving the data, that computing technology is also upholding the blockchain. So it's creating the ongoing ledger as it's mining.
That is a very well stated explanation for what that means. Now, and because I've had conversations, very pedestrian level conversations with people about, they're like, oh, I'm a Bitcoin miner. I'm like, okay. And I've actually been to several acquaintances, offices, and they just got all this gear running, and they're like, I'm mining for Bitcoin. And it's like back in the 50s where servers were, it's like, oh, here's like 1 megabyte of data back here. And like, you've got these fridge size, computational arrays, and they're mining for Bitcoin. Like, so my question is like, when you mine, obviously Earth is a finite resource. There's only so much rock and magma and geological stuff. And when you go mine for gold, there's only so much of it. But with, where are you mining? Are you on the internet? Like what? I mean, I feel kind of dumb asking this stuff, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like where do you go mine? Like and what does your pick look like? Yeah. Your axe, whatever you get out.
Yeah. So the specifics on how it's actually mined, I'm not privy to, but I believe there is a certain software that you have to use that taps into, where you are receiving what mathematical equations need to be solved, and your computing power, your CPUs are using that to generate, answers over and over and over and over and over and over again, until you solve that mathematical problem. And while every single time it's shooting out an answer, it is also generating, the ledger and keeping track of every transaction that's happening on the blockchain.
Okay. And the blockchain is okay. So it's a ledger that everyone has access to.
Everyone has access to, every transaction that takes place.
Well, everyone who has this technology that's able to mine, so to speak.
No, but there are platforms where you can track now. So everyone has a wallet, a digital wallet that you would store your cryptocurrency on. So,
okay, what are some examples, and why the hell would you trust those people? Like, because I mean, I'm old school. Like, here's my wallet. Granted, there's no cash in it; it's just plastic now, but I'm getting there. So, how do you know? Are we talking like KuCoin? Are we talking like I don't know any other names other than that? But
there's two forms of wallets. There's wallets that exist on a platform, and probably the most familiar one that someone is familiar, someone off the street would have heard before would be crypto.com or Coinbase, right? Those are centralized exchanges that you have a wallet on their platform and you can store cryptocurrency. And your wallet is just a bunch of letters and numbers that are assigned to me and that only I have access. Well, only I have access to, but it does live on the internet, right? And and then there's cold storage wallet, which would be basically a USB that you would load and move your cryptocurrency onto this USB drive.
So now we're talking about something tangible. That now I'm seeing spy movies here now. If you got something really, really important, I've got, like more Bitcoin than anybody else, and it's all here. If I have this cold storage, so to speak, or tangible storage, then could I give it to you and be like, hey, here's all my crypto, or here's all my, Bitcoin, and you just access it, or would you need the special password?
You would need a special password, and usually it's I think 24 individual words, key phrases, that lets you access the crypto. So someone can steal it and they could never have access unless you gave them the 24 words that you need to crack it. So like famously, there's a guy in San Francisco who he has, a USB drive with his Bitcoin on it, and he locked his keys. It's called keys, right? Your keys is your word, your seed phrase. And he can't remember what it was, and he's got something like $250 million worth of Bitcoin on this flash drive, right?
And no one can crack it.
No one can crack it. And I think it's also set up to where if you put 10 incorrect answers in, it like dissolves, right? It's like you lose everything. It wipes the whole thing.
That is, I appreciate the security of that, but hot damn, don't go losing your 24 words. I actually have a buddy who has 6 Bitcoins, and the value today is, I don't know what it is. Do you have that number?
40,000.
40,000 it's gone back up.
Per coin, yeah.
Per coin. So he has 6 of them.
Yeah.
And he also lost his password. And this is a personal friend of mine. And if you're listening, Harry, good luck, buddy. I really hope that you find your password, because he bought when they were about $6,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And anyhow, thoughts and prayers go out to you. I hope you find that. But okay. So we're painting a picture here. We've got Nakamoto, whoever he, she, they are, created this white paper that gave justification to why decentralized finance, or DeFi, and please stop me whenever I'm wrong. I'm going off of,
no, you're right,
off baseline understanding here, created the idea, or the refined idea, of DeFi in 2009. And then the first transaction was 4 years later for a pizza, which would have been a very, very expensive pizza with appreciating values. And that's what gave it value, was someone said, yes, I'll take this in exchange for I'll take pizza in exchange for Bitcoin.
And that's what proved its use case, essentially, right? As the form of currency.
Right. We could do it with walnuts if we wanted. If you had to control, if walnuts are really hard to get, then you could go Atticus Finch and be like, I'll give you this bag of walnuts for, whatever, a Bugatti or whatever. Okay. So, where did the blockchain start? Did it start in one place and then kind of like the internet just go and spread out the more people were using it?
Yeah. The blockchain is spread out amongst the whole internet, right? So just how the internet lives somewhere, right? The blockchain lives on the internet.
Okay.
And it's passed digitally. So as long as our internet stays running forever, which I don't ever see that breaking down, right? You will always have some form of digital currency or digital cryptocurrency that exists.
So, okay. So, the only thing that maybe like a solar flare or something would just but then we got bigger problems.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So we've got the blockchain, and now we've created this decentralized financial system that now people are mining. And it's just this crazy Wild West. It's becoming more tame, but I feel it's still pretty wild. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this today, because it feels like, when the internet came out in like 97, CERN was using it for, intercommunicational, emails, right? And then it caught on, and people were like, oh, internet, this is crazy and wild. I don't understand it. And now, it's a daily use thing. Why I think this is so exciting to understand, to speak to someone who knows about it, is because I get it, but I don't get it. And I see that in 20 years, I'm going to wish that I would have gotten in on some fashion. So here's my question is, what the fuck is a Bitcoin made of? Like, what is
Yeah.
it? And how do you know? It's like, aha, I've struck gold. I know that because there's shiny yellow metal in the ground.
Yep.
But how do you know? It's like, oh, this bit of code has been. What is it made of?
Yeah, it's really not made up of anything except for digital programming, right? And the only thing that I could compare it to is, for instance, right, is we know it exists because we transact with it. We physically send digital code via the internet to someone else who then receives it on the opposite end and who then can use it how they choose to, right? And
Right.
so the physicality of it doesn't exist except for in the digital world. Just like I would say to you or whoever I'm talking to of like, hey, I get it, right? Crypto is scary, and I think it's really scary for most people because they don't understand it, and two, because they hear a lot of negative language around it, that people get scammed, they lose a bunch of money, they all of a sudden it disappears, but it's like, hey, do I need to understand the physicality on how a picture is produced in a TV to understand that it is good for us, right? Like we use it. You know what I mean?
I don't know how my cell phone works.
I have no idea how. I don't know how.
But there's a
lot
less riding on me making a phone call than me throwing down 40K on a Bitcoin.
Yeah, and so the how it physically, the technicalities of it, I'm nowhere near knowing where that is. It would take a cryptographer is what they're called, and the science behind cryptography, which is the technology that Bitcoin uses in order to explain it, and a computer programmer, a computer engineer.
I mean, cryptography, I guess until 2009, just meant basically someone who solves puzzles, and
Yep.
that makes complete sense.
Yep.
This reminds me of Yuval Harari's book *Sapiens*, which something tells me you've probably read.
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Oh, it's a great book. It's just, it basically is. I'll just give you the quick cliff notes here. It starts at the first, piece of art on a cave in France, some 60,000 years ago, I think. And it goes up to why paper money has value, why there are states that have lines that are not really why we have laws, is because people believe in it.
Yep.
And that's what gives things meaning.
100%.
And I think that crypto is so fascinating because this is it. We're in it right now. We're in the frontier. People, the lava's cooling a bit,
Yep.
but there is a large and growing by the day front of people who understand and are wielding this as a tool to create a boundless future for themselves and for society. Who knows where it's going to go? I don't know. I just want to learn about it.
Yeah, it's fascinating because there's actually charts online, and I looked it up earlier this morning just to kind of put a visual to it. But there's an adoption chart for many different technologies. So kind of the first one on it is like the automobile, and then telephones, then airplanes, then electricity, then TV, then PCs, then mobile phones, then internet. And internet's actually the latest one. Actually, that's not true. Crypto is the latest one, but internet is the previous one.
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
Crypto is actually the fastest adopting technology that just surpassed the internet. And every adoption chart looks very similar, where it's a very gradual, steady climb. It goes near vertical to 100% adoption, and then it plateau, or
right.
90%, right? And then it curves to a solid horizontal, and then goes horizontal till it gets to eventually 100% or 99%.
Right. But if the tech drops off, then it'll go back down. Like, horseshoes had an adoption, and candles had an adoption, but then it got,
there's a better technology that replaced it.
Right.
Yeah. And so when you look at the history of money, right? Money started as trade, right? Hey, I have one chicken. I'm going to trade you for, I don't know, the leg of a cow, right? And obviously that becomes very hard to divide a whole cow, without killing it, right? And so I either got to come up with 15 chickens to make the equivalent of a cow, or 2 chickens to your 1 basket that you're going to give me. And I may not have 2 chickens, right? So I got to come up with something else. It's bartering, right? I mean, that's all, that's all the payment system is. And then we came up with gold, right? Or metals. Gold was the precious metal that didn't decay, didn't oxidize, right? So we came up with that. It was kind of shiny and nice, and we could use it. Issue with gold is one, it's very difficult to mine, takes a lot of resources to mine. That's partially what gives it value. 2 is its scarcity, and 3, the people that the thought that people desire it. But it's heavy, it's difficult to acquire, and then to divide it is very difficult, right? To take a giant piece of gold, melt it down, and then turn it into little pieces, and then you got to lug it around.
Right.
So if you need to make a big transaction, it doesn't transport well. So then we came up with paper money, which was at one time backed by gold.
Yeah, that's a problem when we came off the gold standard.
And then in the 1970s, right, we came off
printing.
Exactly. So it's great, but you are relying on a centralized, government essentially, and giving them and entrusting them to uphold the value of that currency.
So this circles back to the problem with centralized finance. That was another question that I'll go ahead and just ask freshly. What's the problem with centralized finance that we've all grown up with and our ancestors know since the beginning of modern time?
Yeah, I mean, we as Americans are very
not even modern time. I mean, pre-modern time. Yeah,
right. I mean, we as Americans are very fortunate because for the most part we have a government that treats our money pretty well. I mean, most countries, or a lot of countries, are familiar with double-digit inflation rates throughout history, right? So where you're literally changing the price of something daily due to the inflation being so high. And right now we're at a 40-year high at like 8.5%, which is unheard of. But historically, we've been closer to 2 to 3%, which isn't terrible. But that's also why the U.S. dollar is the world currency. One, it's the most prevalent, most desired, and most the safest currency out there. So it is the world currency. And now what Bitcoin's doing is, mind you, as we know, the U.S. government just printed, I think it's something like 75% of all dollars that are in existence were printed in the last 2 years. So think about that, right? The U.S. dollar has been around for a couple hundred years, right? And 75% of it, and don't quote me on that percentage, but it's something really high. It's somewhere between 50, 70, 75%, because it's gone up in the last year. Was all printed in the last 2 years, which is wild.
That doesn't seem sustainable or responsible.
No, not at all. And what Bitcoin is there will only ever be, I believe it's 22 million coins. It's either 21 or 2 million coins that will ever exist, ever. There's no getting more after that.
Okay, why? What's that number?
That's how that code is written. And so we just mined, I think last month or a couple weeks ago, the 19th million Bitcoin. And it's going to take another 140 years to mine the last Bitcoin. And the reason for that is every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that can be mined cuts in half. So eventually you have something enough, it goes to zero.
Yeah.
And every time that it's called the halvening every 4 years. Yep.
So basically, this algorithm, and I'm respecting it more and more as you break it down to me, this algorithm that I guess was spelled out in the white paper says we're stopping at 22 million. You guys go at it, get as much, get. But we know human nature. So we're going to, we being everybody, I guess, or whoever, the decentralization that is everyone, said, we're going to put a cap on human greed and make you work for it a little bit more because there is a cap on this. Oh, and by the way, just so Mr. Big Shot or whoever can't just go buy all of it and completely control it. We're only kind of you can go find it or they generate it, but also we're cut the I'm sorry, what was the term again? Havening.
Yeah.
So we're going to make it harder and harder and harder to, I assume, which means creating a more complex algorithm
Yep.
to obtain these. So the scarcity will go up literally as people get more
Yep.
Bitcoin. So that's a whole shakeup to finance, because you can't just have the biggest stick or the deepest pockets.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Every dollar out there, right? Fiat currency is what it's called.
What does that stand for? What does that mean? Fiat.
Fiat currency is just the name for government owned currency, basically.
Okay.
And every single currency out there is inflationary because it is governed and created by the government, and the government prints more and more as it's needed, as we've seen in the last 2 years. And Bitcoin specifically is a deflationary asset because it has a fixed number. So it's a true form of scarcity. And so at every halvening, not only are you accumulating less Bitcoin during the mining process, but the mining complexity is increasing. And so Bitcoin is what's called proof of work, which means you need physical CPUs and computing power in order to mine Bitcoin, which takes energy, right? So gold, which also takes energy to mine, but it's highly destructive to our environment. And it's something like 75% of all miners are using, or sorry, 75% of the energy that's used to mine Bitcoin is using renewable resources, solar power, wind power, water.
Is that a new development as far as what's used to mine Bitcoin, or has it always been? Because from my understanding, mining a coin or pieces of a coin are very energy expensive, regardless of where the energy is coming from, if it's renewable or not. But
Yep.
but that's what I understand.
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it's very expensive. So what becomes interesting, right? And there's this whole formula of, okay, as I'm mining Bitcoin, it's becoming more costly, right? So Bitcoin has to grow at such a rate for it to make sense in order to mine Bitcoin, right? Like if Bitcoin were to always stay at, I don't know, let's call it 5,000 forever, it doesn't incentivize anyone to keep mining it because it's going to become more and more costly just in energy prices, the cost to buy the more powerful.
Your inflation right there is
exactly. But the thing is it's deflationary. So the price will only go up the more and more and more that it is adopted. And so right now, just whole figures, roughly 106 million people in the world own some form of cryptocurrency, which right now that's 1.3% has cryptocurrency, right? So the adoption on this is very, very, very at its infancy stage. And right now, total, right? I mean, Bitcoin's its total market cap is just under $1 trillion. I think it's like $809, billion right now. Are the U.S. the U.S. stock exchange, right? All the stocks, the Nasdaq, S&P 500, all that stuff is worth $40 trillion, right? Gold is roughly worth $9 trillion. And Bitcoin isn't even at $1 trillion. It has hit $1 trillion when it was at its all-time high of 69,000, actually before that. But I'm just saying, right? We are very, very early in cryptocurrency in general. And this is just Bitcoin that we're talking about, right? Crypto has so many other use cases behind it.
What do you mean?
So there are other technologies that crypto is used for. Right now, we've talked about, currency, right? So there's two types of cryptocurrency. There's coins, which Bitcoin is a coin. It has no other use case except for the fact that it's used to use as a form of currency. It's
Okay.
used to transfer to someone in exchange for goods. And
Yes.
then there's tokens. And tokens are coins. Tokens. Let's just stay on the term tokens. Tokens are another form of engineering software that is built on the blockchain or blockchain technology,
Uh-huh.
and it's used for something. So the second largest cryptocurrency, second to Bitcoin, is Ethereum. And they compare Bitcoin equivalent to digital gold because that's what it's most like. It is gold. It's a form of currency that is stored digitally.
Hmm.
Ethereum would be compared to digital oil. And what Ethereum is it's a token that is used to transact for services on their blockchain. So there are a lot of different things, companies, businesses, whatever, that are built on the Ethereum platform, the Ethereum code base, the Ethereum blockchain, and are used for different things. So you got sectors such as smart contracts. You got sectors such as centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges, decentralized finance, NFTs or non-fungible tokens. You got stuff like gaming and gambling, all built on other blockchains or these things. So Ethereum is digital oil because you use it to power these other utilities, right? It has a
So when you say oil, you mean like fuel.
it's used to fuel certain things. So for instance, on certain platforms like OpenSea, if you wanted to buy an NFT, you would purchase it using Ethereum.
What is that? What is OpenSea? That's the
OpenSea
NFT marketplace.
is an NFT marketplace. Yeah,
Okay.
one of them. Yep.
Okay.
So there are other things that go along with it, and then there's other cryptocurrencies that are, for instance, built off of the Ethereum blockchain using the coding language that Ethereum uses, and it uses it to connect different exchanges, different current cryptocurrencies. It allows you to transact Bitcoin faster. I mean, it's truly technology. I mean, it's
Hmm.
cryptocurrency. If you were to break it down, it is technology. That's what it is.
Okay. So there are okay. So Ethereum's the gas.
Yep.
Bitcoin is the money.
Yep.
Um, now, Bitcoin's not the only crypto out there. It seems like I think one of the scary things here is for a lot of people is that they're like, what cryptocurrency do I back? Which
Yeah.
cryptocurrency do I use? Do I believe in? I remember there was a big Dogecoin pop last
Oh yeah.
year, and I don't know what it's at right now, but it was big and now it's not.
Yep.
So what's to stop? I mean, there's so many questions I want to ask here. I'm going to just whittle it down here. Why is Bitcoin winning? Because it was first?
I think it's because it's first. I think it's because it is the most decentralized. I think it's because of the technology behind it is the most it's very simple in in comparison to other cryptocurrencies, right?
Okay.
Um, and really because the cryptocurrency world is ever evolving and you have different um, people who are like for instance, you and I could create a cryptocurrency. It's not hard. It's actually extremely easy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what are we creating that is going to be useful in the long term? And that's the one unique thing that I think Bitcoin has is like there is no sole creator per se, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, yes, there is a one figurehead who kind of started the idea, but it's been carried along the way multiple times by a lot of different really smart, software engineers. Um, and it's kind of left to be, right? And so it's going to keep producing um, forever. And I do truly see the point to where, you know, I don't know if it's Bitcoin, right? But it could be. But where a cryptocurrency is essentially the world currency, right? And everything is backed off of that. It's going to be based on, how much cryptocurrency of that cryptocurrency you have. Just because there is no one manipulating it. There is no one person. There is no one entity. There is nothing. And it's the truest of scarce assets. And it's the most efficient form of currency, right? Just like there's literally inefficiencies with everything that we do in the world. Even electricity, right? It loses voltage as it travels through copper, right? And energy dissipates, right? Same thing with, so many things that we do, right? Aerodynamics, gasoline, there's just
sound,
everything, light.
Yeah.
And there is zero inefficiencies with Bitcoin and digital currency.
That's fascinating.
Just like it's kind of similar to, like, if you think about it, phones, we went from sending mail, which was highly inefficient, and then we found electricity and Morse code, which was a little bit better. You could transact it far distances. You couldn't get a lot across. Then you had phones, and you had someone sitting at a board plugging you in, right? And then from there, you had landlines where it connect you directly to that person. To then we had, cell phones that could be used, using, sound waves, and not sound waves, but whatever.
Anyways. Electronic signals.
Exactly.
Being sent up to space or to towers first, and now up to space and down, and we can talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To then digital phones, to then smartphones, right? And the adoption of and the progression of phones is similar to that of, right, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and what that has meant. And now it's being used for a lot more than just currency, but actually using to provide services, goods and services.
Okay. So, all right. So we've got all these types of coins, and I like, if you hop on Coinbase or crypto.com, are you allowed to store whatever type of crypto that you want in that wallet, or is it just Bitcoin specific?
Yeah. So the centralized exchanges, they limit you on what cryptocurrencies you can purchase, because there's, I think, roughly at any one given time, 2,000 to 3,000 different coins that exist out there. Right.
That is frightening.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's kind of, it's kind of like, it's kind of like, you go to, let's say you go to, I don't know, you go to the UK and you exchange, Bitcoin for Dogecoin, or pounds for dollars for pounds. So I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around this, as each type of cryptocurrency is kind of like a currency of another, nation, so to speak, but a digital nation. Yep. If I'm just going to put it together in very simple terms on my level.
Yeah, exactly. So, you can't, there are places where you can go to buy all of those. Those are usually decentralized platforms. And you can once you purchase them on some decentralized exchange, you could then transfer them to your wallet on a centralized exchange. You just can't purchase it there, but you can store it there.
Okay, I understand.
I think the huge benefit towards cryptocurrencies is you can actually earn interest on lots of these cryptocurrencies, right? So yeah, you can earn it, and a lot of different exchanges have different rates on it. But I think the nice part about cryptocurrency is it gives you a lot of freedom that you don't have in the traditional finance world.
Also, and can you, before you unpack that, what do you mean? How are you going to earn interest on, like, you keeping your cryptocurrency in your Coinbase wallet for other people to borrow and then pay back? You earn interest on that?
Yeah,
more cryptocurrency.
It's similar to how banks used to work, right? As you kept your money in there, and they would pay you 5%, 10% back in the day, right? And now it's so bad that they give you 0.1%, right?
Right.
It's virtually nothing. And it's something similar to that, because lots of the platforms, will loan you money against your cryptocurrency as collateral. And so, yeah, you can keep it on there, and they'll pay you in Bitcoin, in whatever currency you do. So like I stake, it's called staking, but I earn interest on like my Bitcoin and Ethereum.
I've got a question. Okay. So I own a bit of Ethereum. I own less Bitcoin. And I mean, this is in like Robinhood, like I have that there. How would I take, from some like simple investing platform, more traditional investing platform like that, move it over to Coinbase and say, you know what, guys, go, lend it out, give me interest, because that's real. I didn't know you could do that. That's very, very interesting. And how the fuck do I do that?
Yeah. So you would just transfer. Now, I don't know about Robinhood. I haven't been following it, but I once heard that by owning your Bitcoin or Ethereum on Robinhood, you don't actually own it. Like you couldn't actually transfer it. You just own basically the I don't know how to explain it. It's basically like buying a spot ETF where it's like, you are buying the idea of Bitcoin, but you can't actually transfer off the platform. I don't know if that's true anymore. I heard that they were going to try to change it, but
I sure hope it's not true.
Yeah. So
get to the bottom of that.
So you should be able to. The way it works most of the time is you would transfer it from whatever exchange you want to earn interest on, transfer it over there, and then sign up to stake that cryptocurrency, and they'll start paying you. Usually they pay it on like a weekly basis, that percentage rate.
Yeah.
And you can either have the flexibility of pulling it out whenever you want, which then it pays you a lesser rate.
Right.
Like on crypto.com, I think I got my Bitcoin and it's locked up for 3 months, and I'm going to earn, I think it's like 4.5% on my Bitcoin, which is
great.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then remember, they pay you 4.5% of Bitcoin, right? So it's like, hey,
so you're just,
yeah. So it's 4.5%. Now I'm getting the same amount of Bitcoin every payout, but if Bitcoin goes up in value, right, I'm essentially acquiring a
more valuable coin.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Exactly. Now, do you have one that you prefer over the other, like Coinbase or crypto? Do you have one wallet that you prefer over the other, and if so, why? Or do you play both?
I know I play both. They both have their ups and downs. Coinbase.com is really easy. It's very intuitive. They have a great way of tracking like your portfolio and the different coins that you own. And they have a lot of really good information on the specifics to that cryptocurrency. They have the white paper of every single coin that they list. They only list projects that they've heavily vetted, which is good. So like if you're investing in them, they're it's a good chance that they're a good project already. Now they still have the potential of going to zero, right? I mean, everything does. Yeah, everything could go to zero, but for me, it's very similar to stock market, right? Like you don't really know who's going to be the winner. Obviously, when you invest in the stock market, you want to, get the biggest return possible, but there's also like safe bets that you can do and get a really good return and really not have to worry about it, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to invest in Google, right? You have your blue chip stocks. There's the same thing that you have in crypto. You have your blue chip cryptocurrencies, right? And it's usually the top 10 cryptocurrencies that's who they are. Now, in the last 10 years, crypto has gone through a lot of evolution, right? So lots of the top 10 coins that you see up there were not there 10 years ago. So it's consistent that Bitcoin has always been there. And there's actually a graph that's plotted of what Bitcoin has done with respect to all the other cryptocurrencies. There's been a lot of people that've made stupid amounts of money at trading these like really small altcoins, is what they're called. Which is anything.
Is an altcoin the opposite of a stable coin?
Altcoin is just anything but Bitcoin.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
What's a stable coin?
Stable coin is a coin that is usually pegged to something. So pegged to the US dollar, pegged to Bitcoin, and it always stays at a constant flat rate. So it's always $1. It never deviates from being $1. And what's nice is that gives you the ability to be in cryptocurrency, store your money in cryptocurrency, and not have the volatility that's present with owning Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, right?
Okay.
And they pay you and lots of them pay you a pretty good. It'd be the equivalent to, instead of storing your money in the bank, you would buy a stable. You would transfer that to an exchange, your money into an exchange, and you would buy a stable coin. So you always have that amount, and it stays, on that platform instead of holding it in a bank. And so I'll give you the upsides of that, right? Like if you wanted to, I don't know, buy something for $100,000, let's say, how would you do that, right? Like, how would you physically get your money and get it to the person that you wanted in order to pay for whatever it is that you wanted to pay for?
A lot of phone calls, a couple emails, this financial institution, this middle person, da 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 da, and then a week later it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're losing efficiency all along the way. I see where you're going with this.
All along the way, right? And usually it costs something. Like if I want to wire something, lots of times when you buy a house, you got to send an earnest money deposit. I got to wire the funds. I actually just went through this the other day.
Oh my God. Wired it. Two weeks ago, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I got.
No. Go. Explain.
So
explain.
there was a bank. I had to lose them. They were just this thing my dad got wrapped up in, and then I took custodianship of his house basically. And I'm like, this bank sucks. And I wanted them to move them to my financial institution that I have my other bits of my portfolio in. And they're like, all right, cool. Yeah, we can do that. And so I'm going to give you this, asset. And then I'm going to pay you because you loan me a bunch of money. And that's pretty basic. But wait a minute, like they sent me a bill for like $1,100. I'm like, what's this for? Like, you guys I'm paying you. Come on. Yeah. They're like, oh, we had to do, our due diligence and appraisal. And I'm like, all right, I'll play the game. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I completely cut you off, but I was excited to tell you that.
It's just a lot of inefficiencies, right? It's just like, okay, our listing agent sent us where to wire the money, right? And to wire the money, it's going to cost like, I don't know, $30 to wire the money. Well, apparently, they sent us the wrong information, and that bank account doesn't exist anymore. So it's like it's shot like, and no one said anything because you just like
got a bunch of people who've had a shitty day, and like I didn't get sleep with my kids, and I hit the wrong key, and now it's up whatever's the chain, the people chain.
Exactly.
And it's okay. It takes the human error out.
It takes the human error out, right? And so for instance, there's the whole thing of like, okay, people always say, well, I like cash. Like, why would you get rid of cash? It's like, well, how often do you really use cash nowadays, right?
Never.
Like, never. I mean, everything is on a freaking card, right? I have freaking 10 of them sitting on my desk for the different banks and credit cards and debit cards and bank. Exactly. Like it doesn't exist anymore. And yes, cash is the ultimate freedom, because it's not trackable, but not really, right? Because it's like, if I go and withdraw a bunch of money and turn it into cash, yeah, they may not know what I spent it on, but nowadays with the technology and the tracking and where you go, anything is trackable, right? And so people were always scared of, well, crypto is used for nefarious reasons, and
shut up, cash is used for nefarious reasons.
The U.S. dollar is by far the thing that is used the most for nefarious reasons: drugs, cartels, whatever, right?
But vices, the Vice Fund.
Yeah, exactly. So there have been a lot of hackers that have been caught from stealing money because of the blockchain, and it's all on a digital ledger, right? And as long as you figure out who uses that, who owns that wallet, you can trace every transaction. So they've caught a lot of hackers on it. A lot of hackers.
That brings some closure to some of the fears, knowing that there's security. So let me ask you this: who catches them? Like, who are the blockchain cops?
So there is. Governments are starting to, right? The FBI, they caught the latest one who, it was two goofy people who, stole like what turned out
Hey,
to be nowadays, it appreciated to $3.4 billion
yeah. I heard
and
about this.
caught them. So there is a community of like anti-hackers, I would say, or they call them. I think they call them white hat hackers. It's basically
Uh-huh.
the top of the top, the best of the best hackers that figure out how to hack something to then make the computing language stronger and better.
Got it.
But basically governments. And so we are still in the wild, wild west because there isn't any governance over cryptocurrency, right? Like
Right.
institutions don't want to invest in it because they go, well, how do I
How do I have control?
well, not even that, but like, how am I taxed on it? Like, how is my business going to buy it when the government can't even tell me, what kind of taxes I need to spend on it, that kind of thing, right? So you
Mhm.
really won't get large institutional investors until there is a clear framework around cryptocurrency, how you can use it, how you can sell it, how you can transact it,
Right.
that kind of thing.
I hope the institutional investors stay out for as long as possible. I mean, the government just caught up with. I mean, and God bless their sluggish feet. But Venmo's been great for the past few years.
Yep.
I'm not gonna unpack that statement anymore. But they just this year it's like fine, you guys can inside trade before whoever's husband sells 50 million in bananas or whatever. But come after me for transactions that are more than $600.
Right.
That's what I'll give you on that.
Right. But imagine having Venmo and not having to pay the 3% fee, right? Like,
yeah, that would be
same with Visa and MasterCard. And so, like, for instance, I'll give you, like, people don't realize how many rules and stipulation and how little control they have over their money, right? So, for instance, how many times have you gone to pull money out of the ATM, and how much can you, do you know how much money you can pull out of your ATM right now?
like $400 or $500 at a time.
It's nothing, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's even rules on, depending on your bank, of like
you can't get your money if
You
you want to
can't.
go get your money.
if you wanted to go pull out all of your money out of your bank account right now, it would be very, very extremely difficult, right? Not to mention if you accidentally overdrafted, maybe your paycheck didn't come in when it says it's supposed to come in, or whatever, and you overdraft. Like, banks make the most, and financial institutions make the most money on overdraft fees, right? So perpetually, they are putting people who are already, financially not stable and putting them deeper into financial unstableness.
They're preying on, it's like gym memberships.
Yep.
They 24-hour fitness makes all their money on people who don't show up.
Exactly.
And that's shitty. I mean, this is back to housing in 2008. They're like, yeah, look, here you go. Here's a loan.
Right.
And you don't have a job. That's fine.
Exactly. And
Go
imagine
we'll
having a code that you physically cannot overdraft, right? Or when you do send money, it's virtually free, right? Like,
yeah,
that's huge. And so you can only also transact, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. when your bank's open, Monday through Friday, and maybe it's open on Saturday.
Yeah, we're working all hours of the day, baby. Like, we got to move.
Yeah, exactly. So like for instance, I moved, $75,000 from Coinbase over to crypto.com from a Saturday, laying in my bed, and it cost me 35 cents.
I'm in. That's all I needed.
Right?
I mean, why did you move? Well, why did you move that over from one wallet to the other?
Because I wanted to stake it for 3.5%,
as opposed to a lower percent in the other wallet,
as opposed to not being able to stake it at all. So Coinbase doesn't allow you to earn interest on your Bitcoin, whereas crypto.com does. Got
it. Okay, those are two big. I'm taking notes here. Those are two big differentiators.
So look, I mean, I am not the norm, right? And I'm not I'm not recommending that people do what I do, because I'm like 90 to 95% invested into Bitcoin, because I do truly believe that it is the future, and it is a better form of money, and the technology behind it and the use cases behind it are growing significantly. I mean, when you have the richest people in the world who are investing in it, like Elon Musk, Tesla, right? And you have another guy, another big, and he's the original person, was Michael Saylor, who's the owner of a technology company called MicroStrategy. Yeah. He's a huge believer in it. A lot of the early Facebook adopters, right? They all, Jack Dorsey, the owner of Twitter,
Mhm.
right? He stepped down from being CEO to start a company surrounding cryptocurrency, and he's a Bitcoin maximalist. So he believes that Bitcoin is the only solution, and everything else is a shitcoin.
Yeah.
But yeah, right there is, like, when people look back now and say, man, if only I got into
Right.
Facebook and Google in 2000 or Amazon in 2000, right? It's like, you have the opportunity to do that now. Crypto will be the next largest wealth generator in history. If you can think back to history of what was wealth generating events in history, early on, it was spices, right? Going all around the world and getting
Spices and
spices.
land. Yeah. Well, land
Spices
and
and
then
land.
spices. Yeah. Pepper.
Exactly. And then it was colonizing land, and then it was slavery, and then it was crops and the Industrial Revolution. Then it was, technology or things that made our lives better, washing machines, toasters, that kind of thing. And then it was technology, specifically the internet, computers and the internet. And the next generational wealth building event is going to be the evolution of cryptocurrency.
So 100% agree with you there. And the one thing I want to wrap with is, if there is someone who is listening to the show, watching the show, and they're like, that's brilliant, light switches are going on, where do you suggest they start?
I would suggest that you read the book The Bitcoin Standard. That is an amazing book that really breaks down the technology, the use cases, what it means, the financial institution really well, right? And if you want to get, be exposed to cryptocurrency, I would recommend starting with Coinbase, because it's most user friendly. It's centralized, so you're a little bit more protected. And I would recommend doing your research on what you want to accumulate, right? And if the best thing that you could do for your future self today would be put whatever small percentage that you feel comfortable with, that it's money that you don't need, right? I'm not saying take your rent money and put it in there hoping to double it in a month, because that's not what this is about, right? This isn't about, making the most amount of money, although that is sometimes a side effect of it.
It's a nice bonus.
Yeah, it's a nice bonus, but really it's about creating financial stability through the ease and benefits of cryptocurrency. And put $5 a week, put, every 2 weeks, right? Whatever you're comfortable with. That would give you a nice average price of cryptocurrency, or of that cryptocurrency, and just start researching, right? Read the white papers, and Coinbase provides a nice summary of what that cryptocurrency is used for. But really, I'm basically 50% invested into Bitcoin, 25% into Ethereum, and then I have a wide spread of a lot of other ones that doesn't really amount to a significant amount, right?
Right.
And it just, I've followed them and researched them, and it's not like I'm, I never bought Dogecoin because I don't believe in Dogecoin. It doesn't have a use case. It was riding a hype train that Elon Musk was building up. But other than that, it's inflationary. It serves no purpose, right? And I'm not investing into that. I'm investing into technology and solid, really good projects that are changing lives. Is really what it is. And that's not one that's doing it.
Okay, gosh, there's so much great stuff to go off of here. So I'm going to be ordering Bitcoin Standard and brushing up on this. And the minute we get off, I'm going to look at the Robinhood rules and regs and start making what I have work a little bit more for me. Any because I want to respect our time and cut the show at an hour. It's just kind of how we do it. But
Yep.
Any parting words of wisdom? I mean, there's so much that you've given already, and I really, really appreciate it. I know that our listeners do too. Is there anything you want to go out on?
Yeah, I would say, don't let this opportunity pass you by. It is coming, whether you like it or not. And you have an opportunity to get in at the ground level in its infancy and adopt it prior to the entire world adopting it, right? So don't let this opportunity pass you up. Get in control of your finances and figure out how to incorporate cryptocurrency into your life, because Joe Biden just signed an executive order a couple weeks ago that they're trying to figure out cryptocurrency and how it engages with our government and politics. And you got a lot of more politicians that are figuring out, like, we need to do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
So get on board now, when you can still acquire Bitcoin at a relatively cheap price, which sounds crazy, but Bitcoin will go to $1 million, right? It's only a matter of time.
Right. Yeah.
So, do yourself a favor and figure out the technology before the world catches up to it.
That's brilliant, Michael. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge, sharing it with us. We got to wrap there. I feel like there's more questions, but maybe we'll have you on again. We will have you on again if you got the time in. So awesome. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you.